Was drawn to the worsening health conditions of Mazi NNAMDI Kanu, currently in DSS detention. And the lawyers informed me that the health problems have been there for a long time, but it has gotten very bad. That Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu is critically down, and he is not having access to the required medications and the medical attention that he deserves. And that necessitated me to call you gentlemen of the press today as a human rights activist, an advocate of justice, equity, and fairness. Because of me, not just that, and also as the spokesperson of the opposition coalition in the country, to raise this alarm and call on President Mohammed Buhari, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the interest of justice, in the interest of fairness, in the interest of equity, and in the interest of reconciliation, that the President should release Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu from DSS illegal detention. This is long overdue, and it's important, apart from the judgment of the appeal court that sat in Abuja, there is also a judgment in Omahia. There is also a judgment from the Federal High Court in Omahia. So even if you are appealing the judgment of the appeal court, which there is no superior court have overturned, there is also a judgment of the Federal High Court in Omahia and the High Court in Omahia that the federal government have not been able to overturn. So that means that the stay of Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu in DSS detention is illegal. What the president is doing is illegal. And that's why we're saying, in the interest of that justice, equity, and fairness, and in view of the information I got yesterday that his health condition is going down, it will not even be in the interest of peace that Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu dies in DSS detention or comes out of DSS later as a disfigured human being. We already know what he went through in Kenya when he was abducted and tortured, and the heart problems that came with that. So that's what we're saying. And also, by that decision by the United Nations that have given Nigeria about 6 months or thereabout, which is expiring this month, for him to be released, that the federal government of Nigeria have no basis keeping Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu in continued detention, and that Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu should be released unconditionally now. Even members of the ruling party, like Ojikal, is even saying that he's willing to take him on bail. Before letting Basilika Mechi died, he asked Buhari to do that as a last wish. And let me say this, the security situation down here that we are now in the east is going down every day. There is so much confusion, there is killing and counter killing. There is no reasonable person that will support that this atmosphere of anarchy should continue. Now, as a first step towards finding peace in the East, you now release Mazi NNNAMDI Kanu and then come back to the negotiation table. Because there's one thing you need to understand. There are things that led to this agitation, issues of justice, equity, and fairness, and the insecurity that came with the killings that happened in most of our farmland by the headers. Then the president can now address them. Because we addressed the Niger Delta problem when it happened and negotiated with them. The government also addressed the clash in the North Central with the farmers and the headers. The government is also addressing the Boko Haram issue, where they are even forgiving some of these terrorists and admitting them into positions of authority. So if we can do that even for terrorists, now human rights agitators, people who are agitating for fairness, equity, and justice, what is wrong in calling the young men in Igbo land to say, let us come to the table and address the things that led to this agitation, which boils down to justice, equity, and fairness? Unless you are saying that we in the East are not entitled to justice, equity, and fairness. But if we're entitled to justice, equity, and fairness, then release him so that tension can reduce now. And then we go to the table and find a middle ground, whether through restructuring or through issues. Because if you don't address these issues, it means that you don't care. It means that government is enjoying the killing and the counter-killing all over this land. There is killing and counter-killings. Some are even by pro-government security outfits that is doing it. Like the ones that attacked me, they were government-backed. So we cannot continue. Some people are benefiting from this flow of blood, endless flow of blood in Imo, in Ebony, in every part of the East. If not, if you're a human being that knows that when you die, you'll be answerable to God, then it's time to apply the brake and then release him. Especially with this information I got yesterday that he's in a bad health condition. It will not be fair for peace and stability for us to wake up one morning and say he's no more. Especially when you are holding him illegally. It can lead to crisis of unimaginable proportion, and we don't not want that. That is why I call the people to add my voice to say, please, in the interest of stability, that let us obey the judgment of the court. Let us respect the rule of law. Release Mazi NNAMDI Kanu and find a way to address his worsening health conditions so that these issues can be addressed. And then the agitations that led to this crisis addressed by the president now that he's leaving office. There was no basis for the trial. Even by the constitutional powers vested in the president, he has constitutional powers through the Attorney General to initiate discontinuance of the trial. So everything is on the table of the president. And we're not attacking the president. We're begging the president. We're begging President Muhammad Buhari. I said, Father of the nation, Commander-in-Chief, it's time to open the gates and let Mazi NNAMDI Kanu go home so that tension can reduce. And then we come back to the table because there's pending issues of justice, of equity, of fairness. We want to be in a country where the heads of all the security agencies comes from a section of the country. We want to be in a position where key positions of government, NNPC, Federal Revenues, and so on and so forth are all coming from the north. It doesn't present you as a unifying leader. These last few months, left for your government, you can make remarkable, change. Apart from credible election and peaceful transition, we can also have peace and reconciliation, so there can be strong handshake across the Niger, so that all of us can all be united as one big country, rooted in justice, equity, and fairness. Now, it's also unfair. Just recently, we hear stories of the DSS trying to frame the central bank governor for terrorism. I say, why is it that all the time we from the south are attacked left, right, and center, even with things that are funny? Last time the CJN was removed on flimsy excuse, but the one that came after him led the Supreme Court into crisis to the extent of declaring somebody that came forth in an election first position. Nothing happened. And that's why we told the president and we begged and said, there is no basis to say our brother Godwin Emefiele is a terrorist. The DSS man knows that Godwin Emefiele is not a terrorist. Can't accuse him of any other thing. But if you want his seat, there's many other ways you can go after his seat. But to call him a terrorist, using baseless allegations that courts have said have no basis in law, is unfair. This goes beyond party issues. It's all about decency. What is fair is fair. What is not fair is not fair. That the criminalization and the charges of being a terrorist is baseless, is unwarranted, it has no facts on backing in law. But a wolf in the south feels you are doing that because he's from a southern minority. Maybe you can't do that to the customer CG who has been there for 7 years. You may not do it to the NNPC man who is also from the north. You may not do it to the former CG who everybody saw had some health issues, but he was still left there. But then suddenly you want to take his job and give to maybe a northerner you like, and then all you can do is to formulate a charge in the night and say he's a terrorist. Those that are even terrorists that the DSS have they finished prosecuting them? Didn't they release Tukomana and all these other people some days ago? So we say, Mr. President, you may not be aware of these things that is happening. But some people believe because your government is coming to an end, it's time for them to grab whatever they can lay their hands. The other day was an attack on trying to stop the use of beavers and also trying to remove the INEC chairman from office. And courts have said there's no basis to remove the man from office. And it's important that the president, that you promise at the United Nations and also here in Nigeria, that one of the big things you want to give to Nigeria is free and fair election, and that you want a peaceful transition. That is why some of us here are having hope in the election. Peaceful transition and credible election starts with the institutions. So it's important to know that those under you have different agenda. Now look at the insecurity today. INEC is saying they are not sure if election will hold in every part of the country. So the DSS, DG, and the officers of DSS should go and find a way to make the country secure. Is it not right? So we can have an election. Now you leave the country, it's not secure. They are bombing INEC offices, they are doing all sorts of things, and then you are busy saying that Godwin Emefiele is a terrorist just because you want to seize the central bank. So the president, you need to know that an attack on INEC, an attack on the leadership of INEC, or any plan to use all these fabricated charges to remove the central bank governor and possibly stop the cash withdrawal limit, which you know favors all of us in opposition and Nigerians because it will reduce the amount of money people have for vote buying. So these are critical institutions towards realizing the president's promise of free and fair elections. So those people who are attacking both INEC, both central bank, the president is on you to call them to say DSS back off. This area is no-go area. We are just 40 days or thereabout to election. So we should focus on strengthening those institutions for free and fair election.